the Saints just signed another guy that was a little bit under the radar, linebacker, former Washington Commanders player, Khaleke Hudson, who was a special teams asset for the Commanders, but he had a good role on defense last year, started the last 4 games, had 52 tackles by way of comparison. I think DeMario and Pete Werner both were under 26, and that's when I think it was 26 and 25 over the last 4 weeks of the season. So he cleaned up and had some good range, good special teams player, good depth player, almost certainly another league minimum type player with upside. What do you like? What do you like about the signing?
All of a sudden, I feel so good about their linebacker depth, which, if I remember right, going into the offseason, I think I ranked it 4th. It was that or safety was 4th because I had some concerns about the depth. But they add Willie Gay Jr. Now they add Khaleke Hudson. They still have a lot of young guys. Monty Rice was a late-season pickup that they had last year. DeMarco Jackson's been around. Anthony Orji, Nephi Sewell. And a lot of these guys can play special teams. That is something you can do. I mean, it's interesting. Like you said, you were the one who pointed out he led the NFL in tackles over the last 4 games last year. He said, we got him on the phone today, and he said one of the things he liked about coming to the Saints was they were going to give him a real chance to compete, to play defense. And I'm like, that's what Willie Gay Jr. said too. And there's still Pete Werner and there's Demario Davis. I'm really interested to see how this position shakes out. I'm not going to pencil him into my starting lineup, but with his special teams history plus what he did when he was an injury replacement last year, I think he's definitely in my 53-man roster projection.
DeMario had 29 tackles over the last 4 games of the season. Pete Werner had 24. So you combine them guys, and he had, what is that, one more tackle? They had one more tackle than him combined over that span, which is crazy. It's a crazy.
Washington didn't even make an offer to bring him back. I asked him. Now it's a whole different regime, new GM, new coach. He said they just told him, or they told his agent, they have a different vision for how they're going to use their linebackers there, so they don't want him back, which is crazy after he finished so strong there.
Yeah, he's for me, he's a little bit undersized. Could definitely move a little bit. I think there's some things that he does well.
Craig Robertson vibes.
Maybe
when asked to start, Craig Robertson
maybe a little better. I think, yeah, but good special teams player. The game 2 years ago against Washington, I don't know if you remember Alvin's second punt return. He's bringing it, and he got lit up, and it was him. It was him who did it. It was a huge hit kind of coming like right through it. It was one of those moments where I think like we all like kind of cringing, like why is he returning punts? Get him out of the game. Like one of those things. Like he's too valuable for that.
Oh, that's
I like him though, but I find it incredibly interesting that these guys around the league that are on these 1-year linebacker deals, they all look at the situation and they say like I could get a role here, like based on who was on the team. That kind of, it's fascinating to me that kind of they look at it and see like, all right, this is a spot where I need to kind of reestablish my career and get on track, and like maybe this is a spot where I can win a role and do it. I found that incredibly interesting.
I'm surprised too. It made me like briefly hesitate. Like, are the Saints going to trade Pete Werner or something like that? And we don't know about it, but it'll sort itself out this year, and then a lot of guys. These guys on 1-year deals plus Pete Werner going into free agency, they're sort of all auditioning for who's going to be the guy left standing in the future. But the other thing that this got me thinking, so Khaleke Hudson was in Washington for I think 4 years, mostly as a special teamer, and then because of injuries he got his chance to start, ends up with 74 tackles last year. Reminds me a little of like what happened with Caden Allison his last year with the Saints. Zach Bond to a lesser extent last year. Carl Granderson, another good example of somebody who kind of flew under the radar for a few years before playing a huge role. Is there anybody on the current Saints roster that we're just not talking about enough that could be Khaleke Hudson, Caden Ellis, Zach Bond, Carl Granderson? Any candidates to you?
Yeah, I mean, like Khaleke's like a special teams linebacker role player type guy. Like I think like there's a parallel to like a Jonathan Abram maybe. Like
sure.
I think he kind of had some of that to him. I'm not like super guy. Like I don't like if you're asking me today, I don't see Khaleke being a starter on defense or anything like that.
But I just mean the guy who we're not talking about at all that ends up playing a key role for the Saints.
I agree. I think though if we were to like stack him, I think I have him 4th just for just kind of like as we're ranking him. I think he's coming in the training camp as the 4th guy.
I agree.
But yeah, injuries not. I think we've seen it last year with Abram. He went in, he played well, he had himself a nice role, good on special teams, all that kind of stuff. So I think that there's probably a little bit of a parallel to that. He'd probably go somewhere and be someone's league minimum player and feel like he could compete for a job and all that stuff. And in a way, he kind of did. Like, he kind of beat out everybody else that was ahead of him on the depth chart last year. Some of those guys are gone, and, Lonnie Johnson's out of here, Abrams back. So he kind of did do that, but ended up staying with the team that had him.
No, that's a really good pick. Funny enough, so I tried to answer this question, and a couple of guys I thought of are Foster Moreau and Cedric Wilson. I don't think they really count because they were veterans who had success in other places, but they're just both completely off the radar. No one's expecting anything. And they actually fit the Jonathan Abram profile, I think. Foster Moreau and Cedric Wilson, two guys who maybe this offense suits them. Maybe they find more for them to do. But the guy who actually fits this profile that I was specifically asking about, going into his 4th year with the Saints, has essentially done nothing like Caden Ellis. Really, Trey Hendrickson's another guy who fits that mold. And we never talk about him as a possibility to fill in one of these offensive line positions, but Landon Young. Like, what if the light bulb goes on for Landon Young and he's healthy and he competes for a starting job? He would be like that version of Caden Ellis-Sapon. I'm not saying I'm predicting it, but that's the guy that fits this profile. DeMarco Jackson's another one, 3rd-year guy who's been a special teamer and a backup linebacker. I just don't see the path for him now. They keep signing linebackers to take a step ahead of him.
I hope it does. It'd be great if he did. It'd be hard to see it coming, Like, so it's hard. It's hard to see and be like, yeah, I see that coming for him. It would be great if it did, though. It would answer a lot of problems if the light bulb goes on for anybody. Could it be Trevor Penning? Light bulb goes on for him.
Well, Saldivari and Foskey were two other guys I wrote down here. We have talked a lot about them, too. And they're second-year guys. They're not guys who
Penning's
are like
not under the radar at all either. Yeah.